Well, good afternoon, good evening, good grief. Welcome. Another podcast from Agile Coaching Mastery.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Agile Coaching Mastery podcast, brought to you by the Agile Coaching Mastery crew. Our crew consists of Agile coaches from around the world who record the podcast for an international audience free of time zones. You can listen when you want. We do this to help increase the skills, knowledge, and experience across the Agile coaching industry, and it's for free. Every week, we'll be exploring another part of this wonderful Agile coaching landscape, and each episode is recorded live and unscripted on Friday. Let's join the crew for this week's episode. This week's host is Ian.
Well, thanks, Speaky Guy. Actually, most of what we're going to do is from Ricardo this week, so maybe we could just introduce Ricardo and you could take over what we're talking about. It's stories from the start. We're carrying on from last week, I think.
Yeah, and today I'm going to tell a story of when I almost not started.
Oh, almost. Okay.
Almost. So I remember a few years ago, around November, some client came to me and asked me to run an Agile transformation for them. And there were so many red flags. They had a framework, very rigid, and it was not safe or something like that. It was their own framework. It was so rigid that it even had a sprint calendar. So on day 11 of the sprint, you move things to SIT,
okay,
stuff like that. They were developing with the off-the-shelf software. So it was actually customization of Siebel, customization of web methods, and a few other things, which was scary because normally Agile teams are not in that area. And it was 13 teams to start with immediately, 130 people. The sprints were 3 weeks long, which again, it's not a red flag, but it's orange, right? Normally you want sprints are short. To make things even more interesting, the teams were not all co-located, and they were also not all remote. It was kind of a mixed match. The teams were remote from the business. That business was in one country. The teams were either in another country or remote from India. And I couldn't use the word Agile to run the transformation. Would you have started this one, Ian?
I don't know. I mean, it sounds interesting. What you're making me think, Ricardo, is what's the setup that's been there before, really, if you see what I mean. I did one where literally they said to me, don't use the word Agile to us unless you can explain it. And I just sort of went, oh, that's easy. Has no one ever explained it to you? Sort of thing. I did that. So there are some red flags there for sure, aren't they? But, you know, I sort of think, well, red flags, do we ever start with a perfect scenario with no red flags? There's a lot there, though, isn't there, really?
Yeah. No, I first said no, actually.
Okay.
And then around January, I still remember, was on my birthday. One client from Kazakhstan calls and cancels a project that we had for 3 months. And then I had this 3-month calendar gap. And originally they had asked, oh, by the way, and we have to do it in 12 weeks. Start the first sprint. So do all the preparation, all the boot camps, everything in 12 weeks. Which kind of fit that 3-month gap in the calendar. And my CFO just turns to me, I think you're going to have to do that thing for that company. Oh, shit. Okay. Oh, sorry, Ian. You'll have to edit that one up.
Can I just apologise to everyone listening on the podcast and everyone who monitors podcasts that we didn't swear there? What you heard was the Latvian word for shoot.
Yes. Oh, shoot. Yeah. On the other hand, there were some very positive signs. The lead was very committed, and he called himself a product owner. And there was a very clear target. They didn't want to become Agile for becoming Agile. They had measured the lead time from idea to production, and it was 200 plus days, 212 if I remember.
Oh, if they've measured that already, that's a good sign, isn't it? Someone's thinking.
But they only told me that the second time around. And the target was ambitious. It was to get it down to 90 days, but not overly ambitious. It's cut in half, should be possible. So that second time around, I started. And when I joined, I found out some amazing stuff, some amazing work had been done that was invisible from the outside. There had been a lot of change negotiation done. So everyone that was going to be involved was identified. There was amazing stakeholder mapping. There was amazing stakeholder management. They had a framework, but actually it was a framework that they had already used in another country. So they were actually taking what had worked in the Netherlands and wanted to make it work in this country close to me. The company culture was amazing, really fearless people. And that took me almost 6 months to understand. They had a great solution to how do you get good product ownership for component teams. So in the end, this turned out to be probably the most successful, if you compare it to the objectives transformation I ever did. Within 7 months, we had gotten down on average to not 90, but 75 days against the objective. Everyone celebrated. And the teams, those 13 teams, are still rolling. And it even survived that department of the company getting outsourced to one of the big Indian companies. So an Indian company, they did an outsourcing of that. And the Indian company took over, and they put in the contract that they had to continue with this way of work. So most resilient transformation I ever was a part of. Maybe because it had just one clear objective, and it achieved it.
Well, you're saying, because that's a real plus, isn't it? One clear objective, reduce the lead time to 90 days or less. That's very clear. That's helpful, isn't it? Sounds like there was a lot of groundwork done in advance, which helps a lot. And I sometimes think that's always I'm going to ask what everyone else thinks, but I always think what's the prep already done that really helps. And this was a thought I had once a while ago, which I think, Ricardo, you helped me get to, which is agile transformations don't start when Ian turns up. They've already been going for a while, so finding out what's been around has been very useful. What do other people think? People who are on stage, if you just want to come off mic and speak, give us your opinion, that'd be fine. I welcome Ian. You've just come on stage. Khalid and Raquel, you're also, if you want to take your mic off and ask a question. Andrew as well, please. Raz, what do you think, Raz? Sorry about that. If you heard a noise, that was my mic collapsing, by the way.
We had a real mic drop.
Literally a mic drop. Oh, it has collapsed completely. Thank you. I'm in crisis. Please take over. I'll be back.
Yeah. Does anyone want to know why the Agile word was forbidden?
Yeah, I was about to ask that question. So why they scared of the Agile word, or what was the lingo?
They just had a failed Agile transformation before. So they still wanted to get the benefits of Agile, but at that moment, Agile was a swear word in the company. So the transformation was called something way of working, and everything was under disguise. Every single training we did product manager training for the product owners, and it was all about really good product ownership. So I ended up liking it because we had no preconceptions or no fluffy stuff. It was really, let's get to a clear objective. Let's make these teams awesome. What we did, where I brought my flavor into that transformation, was to set up the improvement process beyond the original process, which was not there. So when they had designed it as an organizational process, a 56-page document. And one of the things I left them was a clear process and clear forums to do continuous improvement on that process, which is something that sometimes we also forget. You're really, really low, Russell.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I was saying that's a wonderful experience, and I would like to ask if anyone else has any questions or want to ask or add to this conversation. Ian, Khalid.
Yes. Good morning, folks. Khalid, would you like to speak? I could let you go.
Hi guys, I'm back.
No, you can go. You can go, and then I'll go after you. No
So
problem.
it's Ian, yeah? Hi,
Hello,
Ian.
room. It's been a minute since I've engaged in the Agile forums on Clubhouse. It was a very interesting conversation. Familiar with Ricardo and Ian, joining the fray. Hey, I just started an engagement on Monday. It's started with an executive coaching session for a contract where I worked with the two stakeholders or owners of this small business, this 26-year-old digital company that produces niche content for a certain genre of music and culture. And they've achieved success consistently over 26 years. But they have so many challenges and so many new platforms and so many opportunities that they're essentially boiling the ocean. So I met with them and we invested in really refining the strategy, identifying their cohorts, and trying to just introduce design thinking and agile mindset principles to them before they were even exposed to values and principles in a atomic way. Actually, they haven't. This is the fifth day into the process. They introduced it to their team, and I audited some ways that they arrive at decisions and approve work. And we sat together 15 minutes after, had a quick retro, came up with about 15 ways to improve it. And within 24 hours, we had a more interactive way for them to optimize the schedule, to assign what assets could be created from ideas, etc. And in 24 hours, this team has adopted a new way of work. They still don't understand what Agile is. They don't know what Scrum is. That's going to happen on Saturday. But I think that there's a tremendous benefit from entering with a Shuhari approach where everything is abstract and it's all behavioral, and then you introduce the methods or the katas. And once they have that, and then they just through memory going through 1, 2, 3 iterations of actually doing the katas or the rituals and tying that mindset thing that's fundamentally planted, I think I will have better results. Usually when I do transformations, I'm implementing someone else's strategy, and I may contribute to the strategy. But because this is a totally custom solution, I have entered it just looking to solve business problems on the route to training this team on how, but the why and the what and the rationale is what I've been working on establishing up front.
Well, I think the why and the what is very good.
That sounds like a fantastic way to start here.
Yeah.
I hope you come back here every few weeks and tell us how it's going. It will be good for the audience.
Yeah, it sounds great, actually. It does sound great. And yes, please come and keep informing us. In essence, what you've said is they haven't quite got what their objective is. Ricardo told the lead time to 90 days. But actually, you've got a chance because there's no, for one other way of putting it, no pre-agreements in place that are going to scupper the ship below the waterline. You've got the opportunity to get a good sort of launch going, I think, Ian, from what you said. Okay, Khalid, thank you for coming up on stage, my friend. What's your thoughts? Do you have any stories?
Yeah, well, I'm sure glad to be here. Thank you for having me. Well, it's interesting what you mentioned, that you cannot go in and say, well, I'm an Agile coach. I'm here to tell you about Agile. Because I believe the sole problem or the core problem is always how organizations are pushing people to become Agile. And you can't push someone to be flexible or be adaptable. You can't push them to do that. So what happens is that they usually, and I've seen this with several of my clients, that when you go in, usually you're the bad guy. So you're the Agile coach. Oh my God, he's the devil. That's usually how it is, because they've had a bad experience with how management or leadership, they're pushing them to be Agile. So they tell them, okay, you're going to take this training and this training and this training, and then you have to apply, this framework to deliver this service, because we need to deliver this fast. We need to deliver this on time with the minimal cost. And that's the value that is being sold to them, that this is what Agile provides. Mm-hmm. But they forget about what Agile does provide is an innovative culture. And that's where when I go in, I tell, well, what are you expecting? So one of my clients was working on, they were actually implementing SAFe. They were trying to implement SAFe, and they had several other projects going on in Scrum. And he said, well, we're using everything. We're doing everything supposedly right. We have Scrum Masters, we have product owners, but we are not achieving what other people are achieving with using these practices. So I said, well, what are the other people achieving? What are the other businesses? So he started giving me examples. And I said, so why do you believe that you're going to be achieving the same thing that this other person or this other organization is achieving. He said, because this is how they implemented Agile and this is how we're implementing Agile. So I said, do you have the same culture? He said, well, I don't think so. So do you have the same exact products? He said, pretty much. So the word pretty much and you don't have the same culture, that alone is a delta or a gap that just gives you an initial indication that you shouldn't be applying the same way that another organization is applying it, because Agile is not a one size fits all.
Well said, Khalid. We all agree. We all agree that not one size fits all is rubbish. And I'm just starting a huge gig for a bank soon, where that line, why do you want to do it this way? Because one size does not fit all was the clincher for the deal, I think.
Exactly. So that was the initial problem. That's something they didn't understand. And then the other thing was, okay, so we need to know why your people are not performing well. So regardless of the one size fits all thing that you thought it was applicable, we need to know what's going on wrong. And that's where we started with the feedback. So it's like starting a retrospective at the beginning of the delivery. So getting people together, understanding where they're coming from, why is Agile not working? Why is this not working? And it all turns out that I'm not sure who was speaking before me, but they did not understand the values. They did not understand where Agile came from. Why are we working in Agile? So it was clear that they were just adopting a framework and not transforming themselves into a mindset that really understands what Agile is about, to be able to create their own approach or a hybrid approach of what they were already doing and what they can be doing using the different Agile techniques, tools, and so on, using that behavior, having that behavior. So once, the only thing I did was, okay, guys, I want to know the values of your company. And they start telling me the values. And I told them, okay, so these are your values as a company in terms of, putting the customer first, blah, 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 which every organization practically has. So I told them, okay, how do you map that in what you do today? And I had an awkward silence that most of the people did not know what is happening from a strategic level. So I said the number one thing to do is understand how your current job or what you're doing before Agile, how you're implementing those values. And then understanding the values and principles of Agile and how you take that and you map that to your company values. And that's how you will find your sweet spot of how agility works for you. And that was the approach. And from there, we started to go into the adaptive governance, to the Agile governance of working in the iterative approach, having the lean thinking approach, pull principle, and then moving on to the empirical process control. And they started understanding that. And through that, they started seeing Agile from a different perspective. And we customized an approach, which was a hybrid approach between the waterfall that they were already using and the different Agile tools and techniques that we have with the different frameworks. And it started working. So what they were not able to accomplish in delivering, because they were supposed to be delivering that product in 9 months, and they were delivering several versions of it. So they delivered it actually in 10 months before I came on. And then afterward, we were delivering in around 7.5 months, something like that. And people were actually racing to see, okay, how can we do this in a different way? And this was the innovative culture that they didn't understand could be achieved using the Agile tools, behaviors, and techniques. So that was my experience. On the same note of people seeing Agile as just another way of applying things, but actually what the people need to understand is that Agile is not about doing anything that is different. It's about doing things in a different way. It's not a new way of working. People take it as a new way and an old way, and I don't believe that. That's not what I would say. I don't believe there's a new way and old way. There's just a different way of doing things. That's it.
Lovely. I would lovely to hear what Raz or Andrew think of what we've had so far from Ian and Khalid. That would be useful to hear, or Ricardo. Interesting story there, Khalid. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Any thoughts?
Interesting hearing the stories from Ian and Khalid and also Ricardo. And what I could draw from those stories was, instead of just jumping in and as a culture creator or a change agent and trying to sell something new to the organization, understand what are the key values are, and then map all of those strategic objectives they have to what we're trying to do in organization, and help them to understand the current way of working, and then recreate it and add a couple of things that we do in Agile, in terms of new ways of working, not as a new way of working, as something different, like what Khalid says. That was very beautiful.
Yeah, I think one of the red flag. I'm going to say something, and if no one else wants to, Andrew, are you interested in commenting, or Raquel, you're also on stage? Oh yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
I am. It
How you doing, mate?
interest me how, and sorry, I've got a pretty poor voice today. It does interest me that Agile's got it has become such a dirty word, and that both those examples talked about kind of being something that people didn't want to pursue. I'm really interested in how it got there.
Let's go there then. So, Khalid, do you know, or Ricardo as well, do you know why? I mean, speaking across the industry, I think the problem is it's a bit Emperor's New Clothes. We're not delivering the benefits we say we're going to deliver. I think that's a fair thing to say. Lots of them go wrong. If I think about coaching, I think lots of coaches, if I'm honest, call themselves coaches because really they want to be subject matter experts, but that isn't what coaching is, obviously. Don't need to go there. But you're picking through almost the baggage of a company to find out why Agile hasn't worked. I mean, usually I've noticed people, I'll put it like this: Agile hasn't been tried and found wanting. It just hasn't really been tried. That's what I've noticed a lot as well. But interested in other people's thoughts before I make some other comments.
I've seen some consistencies in when it didn't work to see some trends that maybe you guys could agree or disagree with. When you say Agile, it activates everyone who has that distinction within the organization, agnostic of what level they're in, agnostic of their experience. It is essentially a patina that an executive may adopt to make them conspicuous in an organization, or to kind of learn a new skill or add a new attribute to their resume without truly understanding the mindset. So I think that fundamentally undermines the process, because you'll have, an Agile Scrum Master who was a project manager who's taking notes in a stand-up, and instead of focusing on the tickets, or, it's just, there are a lot of waterfall behaviors that follow people with Agile distinctions into the Agile world. Like, I've heard a coach, someone with as much experience than me, using ideal time, not as a way to look at one unit of value that could be delivered in a day, but essentially across the entire, backlog of work. Oh, this is a 5 because it's going to take me, this amount of days to do. And, like, not even being able to understand the difference between, fixed and variable time and cost, and how scope is variable in Agile versus fixed, and like, they have no understanding. So using that word a lot of times activates bad actors, and I think that's why there's so much pushback.
I mean, Lahmann's law, which is a really useful law in this sort of, if I summarised it very briefly, says one of the consequences is old behaviours, new names. And therefore, I think sometimes, from what you were saying to start with, you can sometimes get leadership who particularly sort of misunderstand a lot of concepts, but like to have all the badges they can on their work for their profile and say, we're going to do this Agile. Then you don't. Then it doesn't work. Then someone else comes in and says we should do Agile, and they go, oh, well, we tried that. It's almost like being inoculated with a very weak version of something in order so that the main thing can't get to you. So I guess that's some of the thoughts I'd have. Just thinking about this sort of Agile coaching mastery at the sort of enterprise level, I'm always interested in what's gone before, so I can understand what they've been used to. I imagine sitting down with a bunch of leaders and they all bring in a piece of rope tied around their waist with some baggage behind it, and I need to know what that baggage is before I know what they really need, is how I put it. Okay, anyone else have any thoughts on this? Why, as Andrew put it, interesting.
We have
why
Ali
Agile
on stage.
Huh?
We have Ali on stage. He has to come on stage when he has
Ali Reza, how do I say it?
Yes, Ali Reza is right.
Ali Reza, hello. Ali Reza, welcome. Hey. First time I think we've met, so hello.
Hey, hello, Ryan. Nice to meet you.
It's cool.
I think I met Ricardo before.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Tell us,
Yeah, actually,
So go ahead. Sorry.
Ali Reza, go ahead, please.
Yeah, like there were several really nice topics that, like, I've been actually thinking about a lot of them during the last couple of days. One of them being that I found that I'm allergic toward Agile a little bit and waterfall. Like 2, 3 days ago, one of the coaches, when I brought a problem to them, the first thing they came back to me said, "Oh, it looks very waterfall," and I was like, "Oh, I hate to hear that. I'm giving you a problem. I'm asking for a solution that doesn't require you to use the word waterfall or agile." And I found that my job is agile. I've been into it for a long time, and I'm allergic to it to that extent. The leadership, executives, and developers, and everyone, how they must feel about agile. So that was very interesting to me. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, you brought him a problem and he brought you a judgment instead of a solution.
Exactly. Yes. So about the other topic, I had the opportunity to do two type of jobs. One board is working with professionals, enterprise agile coaching, and all that. And also, I'm working with college students, and university students, teaching them agile. And it's very interesting that it is much easier to teach them what Agile is, and their understanding at the end of the one course about Agile is how much it is different from people in an enterprise with a lot of baggage. And they, like students, the university students, which have a very limited experience in like software development and working in corporations, they learn it really quickly and exactly what Agile meant to be. Versus when you go to enterprise, no matter how much you teach people and how much you coach them, at the end of the day, you find out like they have some predetermined mindset sometimes. It's very hard to change. It's very hard to like rebuild it. And that was very interesting that I wanted to share with you guys.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Ali. I mean, I say one of the things certainly enterprise coaches need to do is to teach people to unlearn. Because if there's anything that's in the way, it's that baggage. It's what you've experienced in the past. We're more or less at time, so I guess the thing to do is to do a quick 1-minute summary round robin. I ask everyone who's come on stage maybe for 1 minute of what they think as we conclude today. Is that all right, guys? Yeah, because we're at time. Let's go to Ricardo.
Yeah, it was fantastic listening to these stories. I'm wondering, where is the format button in people's brain? It could be so handy.
What, the reformat the hard disk?
Yeah.
Oh, that is the priceless quote of the day for me, Ricardo. Thank you very much. Unlearning is a big thing, I think. Yeah, okay. Anyone else? Anyone else want to make a final comment as we close for the day?
And I think adding to that is to help people unlearn. I think as Agile coaches and enterprise Agile coaches, we have a very key role to show what they need to unlearn first, to show them the baggage, show them the impurity in what they're doing, and helping them to understand the situation and situate and sense make with the entire things happening around them in the organization and outside of the organization. That's the key, I think.
Yeah, unlearning. Maybe we could do that as another week. Anyone else want to make a final comment as we seek to close the podcast down?
Just say great stories. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. And for Andrew and Raz, it's quite late. It's nearly 11, isn't it? Or is it 11:30 even? I don't know. So
it's 10:30.
10:30. Still quite late for you guys. So I appreciate you. You know, you should see what my brain's like at 10:30 on a Friday. It's not good.
I have a teaser for another episode, Ian.
Go on.
The whole unlearning got me thinking about something, because when you get to a company, one of the reasons why people become allergic to Agile, because there is this bunch of Agile coaches telling you are doing everything wrong. And in most companies that I got to, some of the departments were really Agile, but they were not using Agile practices or they were not using Agile words. And that could also be a reason for the allergy. Because you come to a product manager that is successful, that has released 3 products. You're a guy that just has 10 days of training and a certificate, and you're telling him you don't know how to work. Instead of listening and asking, what is it that you would like to achieve and what's the biggest obstacle to get there and how can we work on that?
Spot on, mate. Spot on. A lot of coaches don't know what great looks like, and therefore instead they tell you you're not doing it right because you're not following a list of behaviours that actually, you're not doing it because you don't do a stand-up. You're not doing it because you don't do this. You're not doing it because you don't do that. Where's your, knowing what great looks like in the sense of not just the team, but the individual being great at what they do. And that great comes from their mind, not from their behaviours to start with, I think. Spot on stuff, I think. Okay, I think we should stop. I think we're going to carry on if you guys, the rest of the crew, are all right with, continuing stories from the start. And thank you very much for Ali. Thank you very much, Khalid. Andrew, always great to have you with us. More to come next week. The podcast goes out late tonight. You can find us on Agile Coaching Mastery. The main crew is currently Ian, Ricardo and Raz, but we are joined most weeks by Andrew. Thank you very much, because part of what we wanted to do was create something at the right time that allows some of the Australian thinking and that area to come across, so we can cross-reference and share notes and things. So thank you very much, everybody. I guess it's time for the music, unless anyone's got any final thoughts.
People that are upside down, they have real interesting thoughts.
They do. Are you saying all Australians are upside down?
Well, if I look at the globe, aren't they?
God, say that as we leave. We're going. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.
That's it for this week. You've been listening to the Agile Coaching Mastery Podcast, brought to you by the Agile Coaching Mastery crew. If you want to join the live recording, give us feedback, reach out to us on agileclub.club and look for the Agile Coaching Mastery conversation. Or find us on Clubhouse, look for Agile Club. Join us next week for more fun and free thinking.
Thank you, everyone, for being on stage. It was fantastic.
Ali, fantastic. Thank you for sharing. I know Ian is gone, but, not always nice to see Ian as well. I don't quite know why he's got a shoe on his head on the pictures, but can ask him one day.
He always has. It's his trademark.
Is it? Okay. It must mean something. So great. Really useful episode. And there's so much in there that was really, really good that we could take on next week. I don't know even if maybe next week we just replay the last 20 seconds of this week and carry on. Some super stuff in there.
The bit about the Australians being upside down.
Yeah, maybe not that bit.
That was the last 20 seconds.
Maybe
Raquel,
just before then.
You're so shy today. I had a wonderful conversation with Raquel like a couple of months ago. She has a company that is doing some awesome stuff. But maybe she has to just listen at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just listening. It's a little bit of a different conversation, I think, from what I'm dealing with, because I actually get to implement everything new. So it's refreshing. I don't have to, work with teams to unlearn things, because everything we do together, we decide together, and then we, define the approach and the process as we go. So it's really like, in real time, all the time. So it's interesting to hear, what happens when you're stuck with a legacy system, how you go in and integrate and make those changes so that it's more productive and beneficial for the goals you're setting. It's a great conversation.
If you want to share what your startup is about, you can get a few more followers.
It's a little bit, a little bit in stealth right now, I'd say, for the room. But I think another time we'll do that. Thank you, though.
Yeah, they're still in stealth, so let's keep it like that.
What we could do another time, Raquel, when you're with us, is compare the sort of usual sort of, here I am arriving at a company that's been here 50 years versus here I am arriving at a company that's just sort of everyone's saying hello for the first time today, kind of thing, and how you build up from the startup. And one of the things that large enterprises always somewhere have is the question, can't we just be like a startup? Can't we just do, we've read Eric Ries's book. Can't we just do that? What's the problem? And, it's always the baggage. It's always the history. It's always the backgrounds that get in the way, I think. So it'd be useful, maybe, Raquel, for another time to inject that in as we talk. I would think that would be lovely.
Absolutely. I'd love to do that. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we're back next Friday, same time. The time is a little weird, but it does give us, our Australian friends can be on calls with us, which is fantastic. So, again, thank you, Khalid. Thank you, Ali. We'll see you next week. And the podcast goes out on all the channels. You'll see it tonight. And if you're interested in particularly the enterprise side, we did one a couple of weeks ago with Sunil Muttra, which was very good as well. Just it's in the list. I think it's episode 2, and probably next week we're doing another expert interview with a guy called Tony Christensen, who is head of agility for, I'm going to say, Kmart in Australia. Although he doesn't want to do it at this time, we may have to find a slightly different time to do it because it is late Friday night and he's a family man, and that's time with his family. So, but we'll get it. Okay, we're leaving it there for today. Thank you, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed listening to the podcast. There's some wonderful stuff, and the reason we decided to start doing podcasts was it's just not always possible for people to watch or listen instantly. But having it around for you to listen to, at some point over your weekend while you're jogging or walking your dog or having a shower or whatever you do, we thought it would be useful. So, and it seems to be going well. We're getting a lot of attendance on the podcast. Figures are high, so always a good start. Okay, guys, bless you. Time to go.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you all.
That's it for this week. You've been listening to the Agile Coaching Mastery Podcast, brought to you by the Agile Coaching Mastery crew. If you want to join the live recording or give us feedback, reach out to us on agileclub.club and look for the Agile Coaching Mastery conversation. Or find us on Clubhouse, look for Agile Club. Join us next week for more fun and free thinking.